Hey guys, today's video is going to be all about the decision making section of the UCAT exam. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment if you have any questions. To learn more about the other sections of the UCAT, check out any of the videos in the description or watch all the way to the end and you can check out the videos that will be on screen. Let's talk about what the decision making section is, why it's in the exam, the different types of questions that you might find, and how to prepare. The decision making section of the UCAT exam is testing your ability to make logical decisions based on a small amount of data that's provided for you. You really don't need much prior knowledge to answer the questions in the decision making. Almost everything you need to know is in the question itself. And actually lots of the questions rely on you suspending any of your beliefs from prior to that question. But you will do well to have a little bit of an understanding of some basic statistics. So understand percentages and probabilities, for example. On exam day, you're going to come across 29 questions in your decision making test. Each of those is going to be a single data set with one question following that data set. This is one of the only sections of the UCAT with partial marks, and that means that some questions are going to have multiple stages to the question, and so you're able to get them partly right. An answer that's partly right or mostly right is going to receive some marks, whereas a fully correct answer receives all of the marks. On exam day, in your decision making section, you're going to come across 6 different types of question. Let's go through each of those now. The first type of question you might come across is where you're asked to interpret information. This information could be in a chart, a graph, or a table, most commonly, and you're going to be presented with one question which has multiple parts. Each of these parts will normally have a yes or a no answer. So for example, are you able to make the following conclusions given the information in the chart? You then have to drag and drop yes or no onto each question. This has got partial marking, so if you get this partly right, you will receive some marks. It's really important here that you don't try and use the prior knowledge that you might have about a particular topic to try and answer these questions. You can only use the information that's in the question. The next type of question is probably the most common, and that's the logic puzzles. In this, you're given some information and then you have to come to some sort of conclusion given this information. To answer these questions, you have to work out what you definitely know. You then have to work out what you can deduce from the information given, and then you often have to make a little bit of an assumption. In these questions, it's really important that you try and use that noteboard or whiteboard that you have provided, because it's going to help you so much to try and either draw a diagram or to at least put information into your own table. There are 2 ways you can go about these questions. Either you can try and follow all of the information through and prove the answer, or you can work through the question answers and rule out as many as you can before making an informed decision. The third type of question you might come across is probabilities and statistics. In these questions, you're going to be presented with a small amount of information, and hidden in there is some statistical facts. You are then going to have to deduce which of the answers to a question is most likely. It's really important that you have a good understanding of how probabilities work, including adding probabilities together, multiplying them, and working out whether something is not likely to happen given the likelihood that it will happen. The fourth type of question is questions where they're asking you to recognize an assumption. In these ones, there's only one correct answer. You're going to have to evaluate arguments for and against a statement and choose which argument has the strongest evidence base. You're going to be ruling out options here which are relying on assumptions and choosing the one answer that is most strongly supported by the given information, by the facts that you know. That fifth question type UCAT like to call syllogisms, and here you're going to be presented with multiple parts to a single question, each one with a yes or no answer, and each of those options are going to be statements based on the information in the text. Some of those statements will be true, will be supported by the text, and some will not be supported by the text. It's really important here that you carefully read the wording of the questions. So for example, one answer might say, we know that something must happen, while another answer could say that we know something could happen. You might be able to rule out that something has to happen, so their first one will be no, but you might not be able to rule out that there's a possibility of a statement, and so if the statement says it could happen, then that'll be a yes. The most important thing for answering these questions is that you do not make assumptions. You only answer based on the information that you know. And the last type of question you might come across in decision making is Venn diagrams. These are pretty self-explanatory. You're going to be given a really complicated Venn diagram, and you're then going to be asked to find a particular piece of information within that Venn diagram. Each of the options in a Venn diagram question are normally going to relate to different bits of information on the Venn diagram. So you're going to have to work through them logically and find out which one is true. So you're going to have 3 incorrect statements based on the information and 1 correct statement that is supported by that Venn diagram. How can you do well in the decision-making section of the UCAT? Well, first of all, you're going to have 1 minute per question, and in that 1 minute you have to read all of the information available and answer the question. So it's actually really tight for time. It's important that you're comfortable and confident using basic statistics and probabilities and understanding those Venn diagrams. So I'd really recommend you go and have a look maybe over some GCSE maths where you've learned about Venn diagrams and probabilities, because that's the kind of level you need to be at a minimum. The decision making section will often try and trick you or trip you up by using vague wording. They love to use words like always, must, something could happen, there's a possibility, that there's a majority of something, that there are many of something, and then ask you to try and quantify that into probabilities or whether something could happen. It's really important that you read the question and the options very carefully and properly understand what each of those quantifiers means. I would always recommend that you have a quick look at the questions before you take a look at the text or the information. Then you know which type of question it is that you have to be answering, and you know how to approach the information that's been given to you. The decision-making section is a good section to be practicing, flagging questions and moving on. If you can work through and do all of the ones that you find particularly easy, and then come back and give yourself a good amount of time to approach the harder questions, you're in for a really good chance of doing well. A massive good luck to anyone who's sitting their UCAT exam this summer. If you have any questions, please leave them below. And to learn more about any of the other sections of the UCAT, check out the videos on screen now. Please make sure you subscribe. There's going to be loads more videos coming for you.